an Apex Lab podcast. Hey there, welcome to the Level Up Engineering Podcast, where we speak to the most experienced technology leaders from around the world. So stay with us to learn actionable management insights to take your engineering team to the next level. This show is powered by Apex Lab, a team of experts in end-to-end digital product development. ApexLab.io.
Hi, I am Carolina Toth, host of the Level Up Engineering podcast, and I've been away for a few months. You might have noticed that we haven't put out any new episodes for a while, but now we are back with a new sponsor called Apex Lab, and we have put in some thoughts as to how we could improve the show for you. I hope you are expecting the same quality content because we are bringing it to you. And also, we have put in a lot more effort into the studio setup, and we are happy that we have a lot of awesome guests confirmed who are coming to your headphones and to your YouTube subscriptions. Before we start, I am happy that you're here. I would love to hear your feedback about this episode or any future episodes or about any of the past episodes. So tell us what you think so we can bring you the best experience from the tech leaders of today and from all over the world. And without further ado, let me introduce you to today's guest, Yaron Perlman. He is the author of DevStreams, but before that, he worked for over 30 years in the software delivery industry with different sizes of companies, and his experiences inspired him to create a whole new paradigm for how to deliver working software. So please join me in welcoming Yaron Perlman. Welcome to the show. Please give us a few words about yourself and what we should know about you within your awesome software delivery experience and within your life.
For sure. Thank you. Thanks, Carolina. Happy to be here. It's an honor for me. And one of the first that I'm doing, so I'm very excited. A little bit about myself. I was programming basically. My love with software began very early in my life. I've been programming since I was a child. I'm kind of a child of the 70s and 80s. So back then it wasn't, it was a big deal. Having your computer and being able to program wasn't like today. So I've been doing that ever since. And later on as a professional, I studied computer science and mathematics and then started working in the industry, co-founded and led a few startups and had various roles there. Did some project management for large bank and financial enterprises. And over the last few years, I've been an independent software solution vendor. And I do consult for a variety of companies, helping them with software delivery challenges. And I live on software.
Awesome. Do you have any hobbies that you would like to share with the audience or anything from your personal life?
Yeah, sure. So music has been very big in my life as well. It's kind of another language, another way for me to interact with people and kind of feel them. So I play guitar, both bass guitar and electric guitar. Used to be in bands and really enjoyed it. And I'm also a pilot. So I really like experiencing the world from above, getting nice perspectives. And I fly both recreationally and for business. Whenever I have kind of on-sites or business meetings, I try to fly there. I try to meet with customers, meet with partners, and it's kind of, it gives a different taste for me, and it's a good icebreakers for meeting, and I found it to be very helpful. And I'm also volunteering in that area, volunteering for HOPAIR. It's a medical travel assistance program, helping people with medical needs fly wherever they need. So do that as well.
Wow, quite the experience, it sounds like. Thank you for sharing with us. Let's dive into our topic today. You wrote a book called DevStreams, Scaling Software Delivery Naturally. And I've had the pleasure of listening to the audio version of the book. But for our listeners who may have not have had the experience of listening to the book, could you give me some broad strokes about what DevStreams is really about?
Yeah, DevStreams is I'll call it a nature-inspired paradigm for scaling software delivery. And when I thought about the challenges of software delivery, by the way, is I'm not sure it's a very well-known term, but I kind of use it to describe the overarching process of developing the software and then making it available to users to consume over time. So the production elements of software, customer care, knowledge base, all these aspects, updates, all these aspects of software, I call them software delivery. So end to end. And DevStreams is trying to address the challenge of scaling of software delivery. So when I talk about scaling, it's both in terms of the volume, and also in terms of velocity, that we're able to introduce more features and resolve about bugs and things like that. So scaling all of that, and also about having a better there's a new term now called DX, development experience, or basically employee experience, how the employee experiences their daily routines, I guess, how happy they are doing their job. So we're trying to scale that as well. And the inspiration for it is really nature. I'm a strong believer that we are all part of nature. We are nature. So if we look around and we look at nature, that's the most successful complex system at scale. So why not look at nature and try to adopt some of the solutions that have been evolving over millions of years? We can use them in software as well. So that was really the thought behind it. And yeah, it's really, I write about software, but I truly believe that what the book is about is kind of maximizing your potential. Maximizing the potential both from an organization standpoint and from an individual standpoint. It's what nature does. It doesn't like to waste. There's zero waste, and we're trying to do the same. And you know, specifically in our economy, where fluctuations are every day, and sometimes there are layoffs, sometimes there are times where we need more people to help us, more talent. This is really about maximizing the talent. So before we can recruit more, we can probably get more from what we have. And that's what we're trying to do.
Let's dive into some of the philosophies that are behind the book. And then if you want to give us a little bit of context about how you came to start writing the book, how you came to decide to share this.
Before I dive into the actual details, it's, again, what I was trying to do is look specifically at structures and dynamics that I find in nature. That was really the inspiration behind it. When I look at what a software delivery organization does, what it does is it's delivering value. So if we look at value delivery, I kind of started to think about it as flow. We're basically dealing with flowing of value and flowing of energy. And when you look around, those structures that in nature help deliver flow in an efficient way, these are rivers and streams. And if you look at that pattern of rivers and streams, it's not just the rivers and streams themselves. You can find it in many, many aspects in nature. You can find it in the stars and galaxies. They also, if you zoom out, it looks like rivers and streams. If you look in the atmosphere, there are rivers in the atmosphere. If you look at a lightning bolt, it looks like a river. So there must be something fundamental in that structure that deals with flow in a very efficient way. And that was really the inspiration for how I came with this idea. And in its core, there's a new structure, a new talent structure that I call for organizations. I call it the stream. And I think the best way to describe it is to say why it's not. If we look at current organizations, they're very monolithical and siloed. So we have, for example, a department for front end, we have back end, we have data scientists, we have QA, we have production, what we call DevOps. It's all very siloed and very hierarchy based. And if we look at the most fundamental resource or unit of production in the software, it's the individual. It's an employee. It's a team member. DevStreams is different. I'm trying to reorganize or introduce a new structure that is similar to how rivers and streams are structured into organizations. So that stream is comprised of out of 2 to 7 members, and it's an integrated, self-contained, and autonomous unit. So we have all these different facets that we would find in an organization within a stream. It's kind of a microorganism or a micro organization where we would have people that do DevOps, we have people that do development, we have people who do QA, and actually everyone does everything. There's movement and iteration and transition and diversity. And instead of looking at an organization which is vertically comprised, this is kind of horizontally. We're looking at microorganisms that work together. They're not independent, but they're less dependent on others. Sort of like from software development, where when you have the light dependency between objects, right? It's kind of the way to develop a good and sound design. And I was trying to do the same on an organization. The second thing that it's really different from what we're used to is the fundamental unit in a DevStream organization is the stream. You can't go under it. So you don't go to the individual level. No, the most fundamental unit is the stream itself. And the idea there is that the sum is greater than its parts. So you look at that as a whole. And I think that introduces by itself a new way of working. And that's really the fundamental aspect of DevStreams. And then there are other pillars. When I lay out the paradigm, I break it down into pillars. There are 6 pillars, and each pillar looks at a different aspects of how that stream operates. And that's basically the paradigm. And the most important part of the paradigm is kind of the 7th element of the paradigm. It's more of my belief of what it is, and it's that there are no rules. So you do whatever feels right to you, whatever is right for your circumstances. I do believe that our reality is very individual, so you can't really make any generalizations. There is no objective reality. It's all very subjective, and you mold it and tweak it so that it works for your circumstances.
Yes, I really love that idea of everybody kind of sharing the responsibility and everybody sharing the success of delivering working software. However, what it made me think about was that you really need high achieving individuals in a system like this, since if everybody has the responsibility, then there might be people who will slack off. Or maybe it's just me not working in a streamed organization before.
Yeah, it's interesting you're mentioning it. So in terms of, first of all, what I'm trying to create and what we're trying to create with this type of new approach and the stream is give an environment for people to find themselves through experience. And maybe they're not even aware that they can do certain things. that environment enables them to explore themselves and to reach out of their comfort zone and get into a growth zone. And they do it by looking at all the facets that are found in that organization. I can tell you for myself, the way my career developed was very much dependent on chance. I got to a certain place and I started, going into that role and being more and more specific. I think it's that way for a lot of other people. So this environment gives people the experience to look at different facets, to do things that maybe they haven't had a chance to do earlier, and to learn more things, to learn from each other. So the idea is that each one of these members is stronger in one area than the others. So maybe stronger in DevOps, maybe stronger in data science, and they teach the others. So you get to experience things that are not that high level. You can do like mundane tasks that belong to data entry, to data scientists, and or I don't know, DevOps. You can write a simple script. So you get to taste it. You get to see what it is. And if it strikes you as interesting, you learn more about it. And maybe you become that expert in another stream, because people go from one stream to another. So think of it as, I grew up in Israel. And in Israel, when I started grade 1, we had a class. And that same class stayed until grade 8. I couldn't get it out of that class. Whatever people I was in, that was it. And here in North America, my kids study differently. Every year, they rearrange the classes and start fresh. So you get to meet more people. I'm trying to do something similar in DevStreams, in the sense that you get to meet more people and you get to meet more elements or more facets of that entire organization. And you mentioned also something about your individual, how should I say it, liability, or if you do something wrong, right? So there isn't a thing as doing something wrong here in our environment. There is no personal liability. The liability, or I call it accountability. The accountability is on the stream itself. We're not going to look at individual people and say, look, you did a bad thing, or, this is something that caused a system down. No, we're not looking at that. It's the entire stream takes, those decisions in working together through that process of taking decisions and rolling out something or doing something, and the accountability is on the stream itself. And even if something doesn't work out, it's not about, liability. It's not about, you did something wrong. It's about change. It's a catalyst for change. So we did something that didn't work out. Let's see how we can change it so it is right. So we're looking at things as kind of a learning experience. And I think that takes off a lot of that pressure. You're not personally liable for anything, but you are part of something that is accountable for a certain aspect of the product, or a certain aspect of what your organization does.
Mm-hmm. This stream structure would be really good for companies that are trying to innovate really fast. What do you think about that? What kind of companies would this be ideal for?
I actually think that it's good for any type of company, because what this does is it kind of breaks the silos between different companies. I'll give you an example. I'm the type of person that doesn't really feel comfortable working for a large organization. I don't like to be, one small individual out of 6,000 or 7,000. I like to be influential in the environment that I operate in. And those large organizations, they're built the other way. They're built so that everyone is replaceable, so that you don't really own a lot, but it's a lot of different people who own a certain aspect of that entire complexity. I wasn't really drawn into that. I thought of it as intimidating, and those organizations lost me, because maybe I could have been a good employee, maybe I could have been a good member in those kind of environments. But now with streams, everything is streams. Even with a large organization, there's just more streams, right? It's like a big river. A big river looks exactly like a smaller river. It's just a different scale. So this is the way nature is structured. It's all about fractals. It's the same type of structure over different scales, self-similarity over scale. So now there isn't really a lot of difference between a small startup and a big bank. They're all working as streams. You just find your stream. And if that stream doesn't fit you, you go to another stream. So it's not about the organization anymore. It's about the environment that you're in. And any organization that adopts DevStreams is going to have the same environment.
I think that sounds really interesting. Let's get into some of the details of the book. You have mentioned streams and you have mentioned lightning bolts and how the ideas came to be. What are some structures and dynamics that can be applied when scaling software delivery itself?
Perfect. So if I had to kind of distill it down, I would say two things. In terms of structure, I would say fractals is kind of the dominating structure here, and fractals are everywhere. Everywhere you look at nature, the sense that we look at something and say it feels natural to me, it's about the geometry, right? And this is where, if you look at a city from way up, or you look at a building, it doesn't look natural because the geometry is not a natural geometry. We don't use fractals. We use triangles. We use rectangles. It's all very structured. If you look in an organization, it looks like, it's hierarchy. But if you look at nature, you look all around you, you'll see fractals. If you look at rivers, if you look at trees, it's that branching type of structure. If you look at leaves, if you look at how your lungs are built, it's all the same thing. It's all the same structure. It's self-similarity over scale. That's really, in terms of structure, the kind of the leading concept. And in terms of process, I would say evolution. So when you look at processes, again, today, they're very structured, right? It's either kind of waterfall for traditional project management type of processes, or if you look at the more modern way, it's agile. But agile also has a very rigid structure. You have sprints, and sprints are 2 or 4 weeks, and whatever comes into a sprint is what you will be working on, and if not, you'll go to the next one. But it's all kind of very blocked and very same structure every time. What we have in DevStreams is called I call evolution through mutation. So we don't start with nothing and make something out of nothing. We start with something and we mutate it. So if I were to build a new feature, I would find something that has maybe 70% or 60% or 80% of the functionality that I'm looking for. Maybe I'll procure that code. Maybe it's open code. Developers don't really like to use something that is almost made. They like to reinvent everything, and that's not really scalable, right? So what I'm trying to do here, and it's also connecting back to your questions about how do I get that professional and build something? Well, that's part of it. You don't start from nothing. You don't start from building from scratch. You start with something that does a certain amount of what you're looking for, and you change it. You mutate it, and you introduce new and small steps. So it's not about like a release or a sprint. You could even change a very minor thing and just deploy it. And I call that minimal variable change. So again, fractals here and different scales. MVP has been a very successful term, minimal viable product. So that's kind of a concept that's been very successful. I'm taking the same concept of a minimal viable product and reducing it to the feature level. So MVC is minimal viable change, and it's a small enough change in what you have to introduce something new, and it's reversible. So if it doesn't work, I just go back. But the nice thing about it is that you introduce those small steps very frequently. So you get that change as a flow. Again, going back to flow and going back to introducing something out of an existing something, just changing it a little. It kind of changes the way we think about producing stuff. So these are kind of the two big things in terms of structures and dynamics.
Let's move on to chaos theory, because I think that's one of the words that's like a strong concept that draws people to the book. How is chaos theory, in your opinion, connected to software delivery?
Oh, interesting question. So chaos, what I was basically taking out of chaos is that fractal geometry, and that concept of going through the same type of structure or activity, just change the scales. So it, again, applies to what I've described earlier, the MVC concept and continuously introducing new changes, kind of that evolution. That's what we have in, right? If you think of chaos theory, the first thing that you would think of is like that sensitive dependency on a starting point, and then little changes, a complex system that is introduced by small changes, right? That if that butterfly moves its wings in China, you would have a big storm or a big tornado in the States. It's kind of the same concept. It's that concept that we evolve, that we introduce small changes, and those changes take us to areas where it's we don't plan ahead. It's kind of the same type of or the different approach for things. We humans like to be very planned and organized, and we plan something and then we fulfill it. Nature doesn't work that way. It kind of lets things happen. There's a certain direction that it wants to go, but it's not about the details. It's about the process. And I've tried to embrace that same philosophy. Don't really think a lot ahead. Just do simple things. What's really important is that flow, is that momentum, is that continuous change. And all of these things, I mean, if you look at chaos theory, it's going to be very technical. What I'm also trying to do in the book is not to be very technical, not to be very literate, not to be very rigid and confined into rigor and recipes and processes. No, I'm saying let go. And one of the things that I'm talking about in my book is about feelings and emotions. So like when we look at feelings and emotion, it sounds very spiritual, or it sounds like something that doesn't have a place in a professional environment, or in software and mathematics. Everything has to be very, you have to measure everything. You have to do reports. You have to look at the data. You have to analyze. And I'm saying, don't really analyze that way. Try to get a feel for it. A lot of the things that we would do, we have our gut feeling. I strongly believe that gut feeling is some kind of a computation that happens in our mind that we're not even aware of. But why not trust it? I really think that if something feels right to you, it's kind of your mind's way to tell you, look, I've made some analysis. I'm not going to tell you the details, but it's good. Go with it. And if you don't have a good feeling, it's probably saying to you, look, you need to change something. So I really kind of try to promote and have people open to the idea that they can use their emotions and their feelings both as a guideline, and both as a way to be better at what they do. So there are ways that we can work on our emotions and understand them. And, when we give direction, when we talk to people, do it through emotion. If it just feels more natural. It feels sincere. And some of the things that I talk in my book is how to do that, how to be more connected with your emotions and bring that into your working environment.
Just this idea came to me. If someone is listening to us who is now managing maybe a team of 5 and they think this is a really interesting idea, what do you suggest? How should they go about implementing something like DevStreams, or what should be their kind of plan of action to maybe implement some of your ideas?
And there are different ways to do it. So if you're starting with your with a fresh organization and you're just, you're a small team, I would say first read the book and get familiar with the paradigm. We also help. I mean, part of what I do now is go to organization and help them implement or help them get started with DevStreams. So with a fresh organization, it's easy. It's just look at those pillars and see if it makes sense. Try to adopt that way that is described there. Try to look at MVC, for example, minimum viable change, and instead of doing agile in a sprint way, try to look at MVC. Try to adopt that and see how it goes. Try to break that silos between people. So if you have someone who's a front-end developer, let them do other things. Let them do a little bit of back-end. Let them do a little bit of DevOps. Maybe let them do a little bit of customer care and customer support. Now they can do it, right? With AI and ChatGPT and everything. You don't really need to be that literate or that understanding to write a very nice customer support letter. So start practicing that. And for organizations that are already kind of built the traditional way, the introduction of new of DevStreams into that, we do it through a program we called journey seeding. So think of it as we're planting a new plant. And what we do is we assemble one stream. We look at the organization, look for candidates that would be good for starting a new stream. We assemble that stream and kick it off, and we help them throughout their initial months of working together, all the challenges that they're experiencing and, the gaps, and we adjust it and tweak it and customize it to how they're, with that specific group of people, how they work together. And they become productive in a few weeks, and they become mature. And I say mature is that they're ready to branch. And when they're ready to branch, they just split into 2 streams. And then now we have 2 streams, and they bring more people to those streams, and then it branches. And in time, the entire organization will transform to be DevStreams.
I love that. It sounds very easy when you put it that way. All right, let's get into why organizations should do this. How can the ideas of DevStreams improve operations on a business level, or improve the engineering experience, as you said? Or even though we are not completely talking about individuals, but they still have experiences, how can it improve their work life per se?
So for improvements, if we look at the organization, for example, what DevStream does is it enables you to scale effectively. So what we will be able to do is increase our volume and velocity by adopting the practice and concepts of the various pillars of DevStreams. It's all about maximizing the efficiency. That's how nature works. There is no waste. And that's what we're trying to do today. If you ask me what was the motivator, the number one motivator for thinking about DevStreams and trying to break the status quo, trying to challenge the status quo, was waste. If you go and look at organizations today and just try to talk to people and see what they're doing, you'll see endless waste. You'll see very little efficiency in the way that they're able to bring themselves and their talent and their potential into their work environment. They'll maybe use 20% of that. So that's what I'm trying to target. Instead of 20%, I want to get to 80%. I want to get to 90%. What happens then? You get a lot from your existing resources. You don't need to invest in more resource in order to grow. You just change the way you work. You make the current set of talent within your organization more engaged, more motivated, more productive, and have a better experience. You get more volume of value. You do things faster, and it just feels good, right? Because again, it's natural. You don't really, because of that structure, you don't need to invest more in management because these are autonomous units. They give direction to one another. So you have kind of a more loosely coupled type of organization, which you don't need to micromanage anymore. You give them the goals, the high-level goals of what they need to do, and they take it from there. They'll come to you to directions, but the role of management changes. So we need less to invest in that element of an organization we call management. We have different levels of management. We have senior levels. We have the just team leaders. You have VPs. It's an entire proficiency of its own. We changed that as well. So it really changes a lot. It changes the way the organization works. So that's from the organization standpoint. And from an individual standpoint, I think that what we're trying to do, and we talked about it earlier, is we try to give the individual a way to find themselves, to really understand and learn more about what they can do in an environment and say, okay, you, through circumstances and chance or whatnot, got to be a front-end developer. Well, you don't need to do that anymore. You can extend your horizons. Maybe there's something else out there in our organization in terms of what we do that is better suited for you. Or maybe you like to be a front-end developer, but you also want to do something else. That's the way I am. I do, like when I develop, I'm a full stack. I do everything, right? I'll do the front end, I'll do the back end, I'll do the customer care, because I like it. I like that diversity. I can't really submerge myself and do a single aspect of the job from now till, I don't know, I retire. I can't think of myself that way. And I think there are other people that are like that appreciate that type of diversity. It gives you that engagement. If you look at things, if you look at a body of water, if it's not flowing, it'll become stale. We are the same way. If we don't move ourselves, if we don't go to the gym, if we don't walk outside, if we don't go from one place to another, we sink. And as we sink, we develop less, we go inward. We're not fulfilling our potential. So I think from an individual perspective, you're able to explore yourself and find yourself, find your goal, like the alchemist, find your life mission. That gives you the opportunity to do that because you get to experience it. You get to experience different things. You get to experience more people. You go from one of the things I talk about, one of the pillars is movement. There's movement within the stream. So over time, you'll get proficiencies in different elements, and there are movements across streams. So you will meet other people. You would see other aspects of your organizations, maybe different cultures, because each stream works in a different way. Some streams work remotely. Some streams work in the office. Some work hybrid. You get to experience. Right. So
I love that. I'm very much in favor of experiencing a lot of things. Yet, and I don't want to single out backend developers, but I have this image of, someone who is very comfortable in their ways and doesn't necessarily want to try out new things because they're happy with how things are at the moment. What would you say to a developer who just, likes doing Node.js? How could they get a touch of your perspective?
Great question. So we see that all the time. So when we work with organizations, I didn't have the example of JS, but it's a good example. from what I've been experienced is maybe data scientists. Data scientists, I had the pleasure of working with a few, and they didn't want to do anything else. They just wanted to keep doing and being a data scientist. And in one of the streams, we needed that capacity, so we couldn't really, get someone who would be who was a full-time data scientist, and it wasn't them. So what we did is we formed, or we kind of outsourced that data scientist elements from a data scientist that wasn't part of the stream. But think of it as consulting. He came to consult, to give that level of professionals, of that aspect of the profession to the stream members. And he wasn't part of the stream. He was just visiting that stream, doing his data science tasks with the context of this stream. And when we have more streams, we will have a department, maybe in that organization, of data scientists that give services to the various streams. So that's one way to do that. I would say keep being, a JS, a JS expert, and visit the streams. Don't work in one stream all the time. It's like a project, or you're part-time, or you consult. So that's kind of the way that you can retain your area of expertise, and just do it in different contexts for different streams. You'd be a visiting expert, so to speak. So there are ways to work with that. Yeah.
Yes, I love that. And it also goes well with what you said before about doing what feels right. If someone doesn't think that they can be in this environment, then they don't have to be part of a stream. And maybe if they visit the stream as an expert, they will develop a taste for it, and maybe they will try it out later. Awesome. And now we are coming to understand a little better of what the concept is. What are some of the misconceptions that you have had the chance of encountering, and how did you debunk them? What do you think are some of our listeners thinking mistakenly?
Through the process of writing the book and then getting some feedback on it, some of the feedback that I was getting from ex-VPs or VPs of organizations say, look, I really like the concept, but it's not realistic. Like, having a stream where everyone does everything with the level of proficiency that we're looking at, it's just not realistic. It's utopic. And the way I look at it is say, well, how do you know? Have you tried it? And I think that when you start trying and experimenting with it, you see that it's not that far-fetched. And I think that the technology that we have today allows you to do things that you were not, able to do just maybe a year ago. So take for example, not a technical aspect, but maybe, I think I talked about that example earlier, of maybe writing a knowledge base article, or for a developer to provide customer care or customer support. Today with AI, you can do it very easily. You could extend your personal capabilities very easily with that type of technology. It goes to development as well. You can extend beyond what you thought was possible only a year ago. You could do things that you didn't really imagine because you have all these tools available. So we need to understand that we're changing as well. Our environment is changing. Our technology landscape is changing so rapidly that it really merits a new paradigm. It merits us to think differently. And, DevStreams is an interesting idea, but it's not really about DevStreams. It's not really about the paradigm itself. I'm a strong believer, and I'm getting amazing feedback from the companies that I work with, and it's really working well. But I'm not saying that's the ultimate solution. It's not what this book is. This book is about thinking differently. It's about understanding that it's okay to be different. It's okay to challenge the status quo. We need to challenge the status quo. We don't really need to accept things as they are and just go with the flow or go with the motion. We can get out of our comfort zone, reinvent ourselves, look at things, question what we do, think outside of the box, look for inspiration elsewhere, and get to a growth mode, change things. That's really what the book is. It's about asking questions. It's about exploring. And that's how I deal with those rejections or with these comments.
For sure. Thank you. While you were speaking, one element of the book came to me that really made it easier to understand for me. And it was how in a stream, everybody has like some sort of an expertise, like within the stream. Perhaps I am the person who has most experience with UX design, but I am not hoarding that knowledge away from the rest of the stream. I share it so that the other individuals who are working amongst me will also be able to get some knowledge while we work together. And that for me was a turning point in understanding how can all these people work together while everybody is doing anything or everything.
Exactly. It's also about, we talked about the things that, define me as a person, and it's really connecting to people, connecting through languages, connecting through interactions. I know that some of the people who work in organizations are very technical oriented, but I think a lot of the people are looking for that cultural experience, that interpersonal experience. And I think that with this type of environment where everyone does everything, it just gives you more opportunities to do that. And it fills you up. It fills you up as an individual.
For sure. Can you tell us a story where DevStreams was introduced, or maybe a company where you have worked in coming in with this philosophy? How did you succeed, and what were some of your challenges while introducing DevStreams?
Sure. It's all very new. And after starting the book, I actually, thought that the paradigm itself would start to grow through reading the book. And I found out that marketing the book is not really easy. And I said, okay, let's go the other way. And let's say, okay, I have the book, and that's really my manifesto. That's what I believe in. But let's start doing it. So I started a campaign of reaching out to VPs and leaders in the software industry, and started doing projects of introducing DevStreams to those environments. I think I said that before. It's called journey seeding, and what we're trying to do is stand up a fully functional stream, and then kind of, I would say, even coach or mentor them through the concepts of what DevStreams is. And these new concepts of how to adopt them. So minimal viable change. What does that mean? What does that mean to take a small change and take it from ideation to production? What are the various steps? How do we work with DevOps? How do we take DevOps from an organization standpoint down to a stream level? That's one of the challenges, right? So we have all these pipelines, and we have all these automation tool, Jenkins or whatever. We needed to first build that in the stream environment. So these were some of the challenges, just to reduce things from an organization level scale to a stream level scale, and have that capability of delivering end to end. Work with them on how do we do supports, change the way that we do the support from the organization level, and for some of the cases, we change the way support works, and it delegates the items directly to the stream members. So these are kind of the things that we work with. It's, when you talk high level, there are a lot of details. I don't go into those details within the book itself. The book is more kind of a framework. It's a way of thinking. And when we work with the organizations, we translate all these open questions and work with those streams so that there's kind of a fast track program to get them to start experimenting and getting the benefits out of DevStream. So that's what we do, and there's so many little challenges, but it's when there's engagement and you can see the motivation of people. You see how they start acting differently. They start to be so energetic, and they're, one of the things that before I came to DevStreams, and I was a consultant, a lot of the things or a lot of the projects I would introduce or new tasks, I would get rejections. Like, people were describing why they can't do a certain thing. I see that a lot. Instead of, this is what we need to do. Let's think together of how we solve that. No. This is not me. This is someone else. And all that 30 minutes of the meeting, he was going through why he can't do it and why he's not the right part of the organization to do it. And now, when I work with these organizations on consulting them how to work with DevStreams, I start to see a different environment. I start to see a different type of attitude and approach. People are not saying no anymore. They're genuinely trying to solve a problem, and that's amazing to me. It means that it's really, they understand what it is. They understand that it's about working together. It's about having a positive approach into something where it's not, I can't do it. I can do it. What do I need to change in order to do it? And that's a huge transition.
For sure. It sounds like, without saying ownership mindset, you're saying ownership mindset, in a sense.
Exactly. It comes naturally.
So this may be an inappropriate question after what you have just described, but is there a typical day for someone working in a DevStream?
I don't think so, to be honest. It's you make your typical day. It's really up to you. So every stream is going to be different. We are all unique in our own way. So some streams, I can't really tell you. It's, the diversity is just so large that I don't think there is a typical day. It really depends on what you do that day, what type of change you need. Certainly there are the same things that you would do through a day, right? So if you go through all the elements that you do a little bit of, sometimes maybe you're the one who's responsible to deploy change. Maybe tomorrow another person will be responsible for deploying. Every day is really different. Every hour is different, and that's part of it. That's part of. Again, there would be things that are similar in terms of what you do, but how your day is comprised is going to be different every day. And I love it. I love it, and I think a lot of people love it because, it keeps things interesting.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Awesome. We are getting to the end of our time. Let me just try to summarize what we've been talking about. So, DevStreams is a philosophy, it sounds like, and also a way of work that simultaneously helps increase volume in software delivery and also helps people who work in the stream experience maybe a new way of looking at life and looking at their work and creating an environment for themselves where they can grow as individuals and learn while they work. And this is great for organizations because they can perhaps deliver faster and they are creating an ownership oriented mindset within their colleagues. We have covered a lot of ground, and thank you for sharing some of the stories that you've done. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to our conversation today?
You've just summarized this beautifully. The last thing I would say is there are no rules. I'm a strong believer in that. I would say, we're all unique. It's okay to be different, and try to experiment, try to learn, and if you don't like it, change it. But have a faith in yourself and in your ability to be different.
For sure. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little more. Where can our listeners follow your work if they're interested in DevStreams or if they're interested in your adventures?
DevStreams.com, my LinkedIn page, and we're also starting a YouTube channel. Reach out directly to me if you want to stay in touch through LinkedIn. Website has my email as well. I'd love to get feedback. I'd love to be connected and see and learn about your experience. And hopefully, this is something that you can take with you and, become part of you. That was my aim.
Thank you so much. And thanks for joining the Level Up Engineering podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And dearest listeners and watchers, this was the Level Up Engineering podcast. We are back again. And today my guest was Yaron Perlman, author of DevStreams. We have learned a lot about the book, and I really recommend you read it and follow Yaron. If you liked this show, I would love for you to give us up to a 5-star review on your favorite podcast channel or on YouTube. So please go ahead and watch our newest episodes and tell us what you think about what we have created. Give us your feedback about your past favorite episodes. And I hope that you will continue being our engaged fans. And I hope that we will bring you a lot of really awesome content. And I will see you next time.
Thanks for staying with us. This was the Level Up Engineering Podcast by Apex Lab. Check them out at apexlab.io. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel, rate our content, and share your thoughts on this episode. See you next time.